So we're going to be talking about an obscure film from the 1980s that was made in a land far away called Pathfinder. I discovered this not too long ago. I think it was sometime in 2022 or 2023, and the movie is very new to you. We'll just begin with your initial reactions. What was the making? What was the movie really making you think and feel? And then you can of course comment on the craftsmanship, the actual filmmaking and things like that.
I liked it a lot. This is very wholesome, like family friendly, coming of age story, which was very enjoyable. So I had very good first impressions of it. I really liked the Sami language aspect. The fact that this was not done in modern English. This was done in a not a revived language, but a language that people are trying to keep alive. So I respect it from that angle. The creator or the director, Nils Gaup, I don't know how to say his name, but he's a native Sami person. So this movie was an attempt of his at promoting and reviving and keeping alive the culture of his people. And so, yeah, that's right up my avenue, and I appreciate it from that perspective.
I see. Yeah, that's a good deal of why I was just very locked in and drawn to the film, and appreciated it a lot. Upon the first viewing, because I was not familiar with the source material. I had never heard of that story, that legend before. That's apparently over 1,000 years old. I also, I was into it pretty much from the first, the opening scene. I felt very locked in. I was very glued to the screen. There's so much is working quite well, like the locations, the vastness of it, how covered in snow everything is. It creates a sense of all this liminal space, and just a never-ending ocean of this white stuff. The casting is a stroke of genius. Casting non-actors, getting people who speak that language, and going out to a place like Finnmark, the Finnmark plateau where they film this. It's I don't see the movie working too well. If they hadn't made these kind of decisions. It's not an enthralling, mind-blowing story necessarily, but it's very, very simple. It's very, very thin.
It's kind of a safe story. There's a lot of tropes in it, and it's very down to earth. But all those other things that you mentioned, like the locations, the authenticity of the clothing, the language, the otherworldliness of the whole setting, I think really made it into something more than it would have been if it were just done in as an international film in English. Not shot on location. It would have been kind of a run-of-the-mill flick, and instead it was something above and beyond. I think this is literally a Chud movie. The villains, the Death Squad, throughout the film is a Chud Death Squad. They call them Chudays in Sami. But that word is also borrowed. I think it's either borrowed from Old Slavic or Old Slavic borrowed it from the Uralic languages, which is where which is where the Sami languages are part of. So it's not clear like which direction it went, but it's the same word in the Slavic languages for chut, which just means like outsider, foreigner, and so yeah, they're throughout the whole film they're complaining about these chuds who are hunting them.
I mean, I feel like this is such it's an under discussed movie. Like people have just completely forgotten about it, even though it did at one point in time in like 88, 89, like it was sort of making rounds in the United States and Canada. It did get at least one Oscar nomination. You know, that's back when the Academy actually kind of cared about cinema and took it seriously. But by now it's buried in the dustbin of has-been films, and I'm happy that I found it and blew the dust off. It's very much a film for me. Like, it is very much up my alley. I'm fascinated by really any director who can take a very simple, very vanilla kind of story and make it feel like it's, you know, something you've almost never seen before. You know, like they inject enough of their own sensibilities and style to it that even the tropes, no matter how predictable they may be, you reach a point where it just doesn't even detract, you know, from the viewing experience anymore. I feel like Nils Gaup did that on this film, and he went on to direct all these. You know, he became a very for hire kind of studio director outside of Scandinavia. You know, he did like some family-friendly children's adventure films. I think he even directed something for Disney, or one of like Disney's exterior studios at one point. I can't remember the name of that movie.
It was Shipwreck. I actually watched that one as well because I liked this one so much, and I hadn't seen anything else he directed, so I was like, I've got to watch this one other film from this director just to compare like his other work with this, see if there's any big differences or recurring themes. And there were some recurring themes with Shipwreck. It's kind of a coming of age story as well. It was very wholesome and campy and kind of family friendly. I would say it was not as much of a hit as this one though, although it had some similar themes. This one was much tighter. Like this, I don't know if it was just luck or if this one was more of a passion project, whereas the one he did for Disney was like you said, a for hire film. But yeah, this one I think was definitely superior.
I'm pretty sure that I saw Shipwrecked on VHS, but I remember virtually nothing about the plot or the characterization or any of that stuff. But I'm pretty sure that at one point I did see the movie when I was pretty young, probably 8 or 9 years old. I know that he's done some recent pictures. They're not in English. They're on my watch list. I do intend to actually get into the repertoire of Gaup. It's bound to happen eventually, but I think that this is probably, I'm comfortable betting that Pathfinder is his best work, and it's the most impassioned, because Gaup at one point in time, like, he was on the record talking about the legend that the Sami people have passed down from generations, and how he heard it from as a boy, he heard it from his dad or his grandfather, and his grandfather had heard it from some some tribesman who was kind of like a storyteller, from that region. So I get the sense that like he's had this story in his mind for so long, and this has happened before, like in filmmaking, where something like that is on the director's mind for a very, very long time, and they've worked out all the potential kinks. They know exactly what they want. It's all killer, no filler, very focused. It has a sensation of being particularly inspired. That sort of thing. That's happened with plenty of the greats, the best ones to ever do it. I mean, what else can we talk about? The photography in this, it doesn't draw a lot of attention to itself, but it is immaculate. It's great. I mean, the lighting, the colors, the shallow depth of field use, the zooms and the push-ins and the pans and the wides. That final shot where it's a close-up of the drum, and then we see like they pull the camera back and then they twist it a bit, and then we get that nice symmetrical aerial shot where we see the formation of the drum in real life. We see those people sitting around that fire after they've decided that the kid is their new Pathfinder.
Yeah, that final shot was really good. I actually made a list of other shots that I particularly liked. One of them I mentioned the other day. You said you're collecting stills, but when he gets down when the young boy first, his name is Agen, I think, he gets away from the Chuds skiing down the hill, and he like looks up back at them, and it reminded me a lot of like when Simba in the animated Lion King gets away from the hyenas down the hill. So I was wondering if like maybe they were inspired by this movie came first.
It's very possible. It wouldn't surprise me. People with like the pros within the industry, like I'm willing to wager that they on average watch more foreign work than the average person. Because I know directors do that. At least like serious ones, not Michael Bay, but someone like George Lucas or Thomas Vinterberg, Von Trier, David Michôd. Like these, I know that serious directors tend to watch stuff that comes from around the world, no matter the budget level or the subject matter. So it's entirely plausible. It's not far out there.
Yeah, there was a lot of other shots that were just really good. A few of them stood out to me, like in the beginning, whenever the boy sees that his family is dead, he like falls over in grief, and as he falls out of the screen, the arrows on his back like come up into the screen, and it looks like he's been shot. And I'm thinking that was probably on purpose, because it looks like he's dying with grief at the same time. It looks like he's been shot in the back and he's dying with arrows. But there was a lot of other shots like that where I was thinking this kind of has to be intentional. It doesn't seem like there would be a coincidence. You get this many coincidences. And then there was other shots that I thought were, this is kind of tropey, but at the same time, tropes don't bother me. I see tropes as kind of a meta language in filmmaking, where if you can use the trope to reference other films, you can use the trope as a communication tool, and you can sometimes use the trope in a subversive way and like trick the audience into thinking this one thing is going to happen, but actually it's the opposite of the trope that you put forward. So I think tropes are good. I'm not against tropes, but there was the shot where the old Pathfinder is being beat up by the Chuds, and instead of showing like everything, they turn the camera around and they show the reaction from Aegon, and he like winces with every blow, and it's timed with the sound effects. I thought that was very effective and more impactful than just like watching him beat you directly, but to watch the reaction. And that's something that a lot of movies do, but I thought they did it particularly well. What else? Yeah, there's just a lot of really good iconic shots, like the Chuds marching with their weapons in front of the sunset. The sunlight was always like this pinkish orange, and then at nighttime everything is blue, like the sky is blue at night. And I couldn't help but think, like, if this were an Eggers film, the entire thing would have been blue. You never would have seen the sunlight, just would have been blue in the sky, blue on the land. You can't tell if it's night or day.
Well, if it was an Eggers film, I think he would have picked a location that was cloudy, so you know, so he doesn't pick up the overt sunlight. You know, if he had directed this, I feel like perhaps he would have done that, just because he has a staunch, uncompromising sort of set of things that he wants, you know, with the aesthetics of the movie, no matter the story. Like you know, like the lighthouse is very shadowy. It's colorless, but the light sources are, you know, anything but the sun. You know, and similar thing with like the Northman, like it all, you know, everything feels very overcast pretty much the whole time. And then the same thing again with his remake of Nosferatu. It's like a very similar color palette, light sources. You virtually don't really see the sun. If the guy has, I mean, if that's what he wants to do and he makes it work for the story, then I don't really care. But yeah, like the sun, the purple, the warm hue stuff, that certainly adds to the experience and the journey, and you know, the world that we're in, because like it's just this never-ending landscape. It's all, you know, it's pretty much all covered in ice, and it's an event that allegedly happened a long time ago. You know, over 1,000 years ago. We're watching white people, you know, well before Christianity or anything like that ever met them. Like that, I just think that's a fascinating place to tell a story.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the casting, and I was wondering, like, I didn't really look into that. Did they only cast Sami people, or did they just cast anyone and then kind of coach them to speak the language? Do you know how that worked?
As far as I know, everybody that they cast really could speak the language, and then they did get people who actually lived out in that region to be in the film, like a lot of the extras and stuff, and they could handle the cold pretty well. And for reference, it gets as cold as 30 or 50 below zero where they were shooting that. But like apparently some of the main actors, you know, in those main roles that get the most screen time, they had a hard time adjusting to the cold. Is apparently an issue that came up. And also some of their equipment apparently got damaged or stolen, and they're not sure who did it, but I'm not sure if there are. Yeah, I don't know. Like if out in that part of Scandinavia, you still have tribes that are that are not integrated into Western society. I don't know if that is what happened, but yeah, no, there was issues. Usually when you're when you're filming in an area like that, it's it just comes with problems and risks. Like in Lawrence of Arabia, they underestimated the heat, and the heat would ruin the assets, and then they suddenly had to go do these reshoots that they didn't think they had to do. Going out into like the wilderness is and to shoot something is it's exponentially more difficult than just shooting within civilization, or it's definitely nothing like shooting on a soundstage where you control all of the lighting and the air and all of that. But I mean, I love films that do that. I where you don't have an ounce of civilization anywhere within any frame. Like something about that really speaks to me. Films like Jeremiah Johnson, Iceman, Arctic, something like Sergio Leone films, where it's just a lot of desert with rickety rackety shacks and dilapidated saloons. I feel like that adds like that in and of itself kind of adds production value to a movie. No matter the story or the budget. Like the scenery is just intrinsically priceless. And what we see in Pathfinder, this what they call the Finsmark or whatever plateau. I mean, this place looks amazing. It really does. I mean, it looks magical.
It's great to have it captured on film before civilization gets there and destroys it. To see the wilderness in its untouched condition. It did have me wondering if throughout the whole film, all of the men have like frozen icicles on their mustaches. It did have me wondering, like, were these legit frozen mustaches, or was that like makeup department that did that? But if you're saying they shot on location for all this and 40 degrees below zero, I'm leaning towards it's probably real icicles.
I mean, shit, it looked real. It looked real to me. I remember watching that movie for the first time and thinking, damn, did they really go out into some Arctic region to shoot this? Because that doesn't look like makeup. Like, that was my initial reaction to it.
Yeah, it was pretty convincing. Really, the only thing in this movie that was not convincing and kind of shook my suspension of disbelief a little bit was the fight with the bear. But everything else was so seamless that I was willing to overlook it and just kind of, accept they didn't have like CG and AI and like huge special effects houses that they could have used back then to make a realistic looking bear. And so it looked to me like what they did is they cut between actual footage of a real bear and then somebody in a bear suit swinging their arms. And they like went back and forth in close-ups between those two to make it work. And I think it did work, but it also did give me a feeling of, this is kind of a fake bear fight.
Yeah, I'm assuming that perhaps that was the most difficult thing to shoot for them, given the limited budget and location, and like what you said, there was no CG, there was no AI. But thankfully the scene, like the fighting, is over really quickly, because if they had dragged that out, I mean, holy smokes, that would have not helped. But the way they shoot around the bear, like the close-ups and stuff like that was the right move, given what they had to work with. It was good that it wasn't just a bunch of wides or something, like, and it's it helped. It helped the scene to end it fairly briefly with the old Pathfinder, sticking his spear in, and they just cut to them wheeling the bear carcass in on a sled. It was whatever. It was sure. It felt a little campy. It felt a little subpar, but it was nothing to derail the film or whatever. It wasn't as good as a bear as what they had in the film The Edge from 1997, but they had a much higher budget and they had an actual bear that they could train to do stuff on camera. Different resources, different limitations for different shoots.
To me, it was very forgivable because of the placement. Like, the bear scene doesn't come up until like 15 minutes into the movie, and at this point, like at that point in the film, I'm already extremely invested and just locked in. The first 12 minutes, like the setup with the main character, that's all was very realistic and compelling and easy to empathize with the character. And it kind of goes it starts slow, but then becomes like breakneck pace with the main character. And then that ends, and it comes to this scene with this whole other village of people that end up fighting with the bear. And they introduce all these characters and make them extremely likable and relatable, and they all seem very human. Like he pulls the whole trick where he comes up to the tree with his ski marks and then takes off his skis, walks around the tree and keeps going, and then the guy behind him smacks into the tree. It's kind of silly humor, but I found it very endearing, and it was a good way to make you like the characters. And by the time they get around to fighting the bear, it's like, I already care about these characters, so I'm gonna forgive them for fighting a man in a bear suit.
Yeah. It was everything that followed, all the subsequent things, from the bear, like that evaporated from my mind very, very quickly, and I just, I was very on edge. I was very invested in what was going to happen. Like, how is this kid going to get out of this situation? Because the stakes, they grow more and more serious. Like the Pathfinder, the original Pathfinder, he imparts some wisdom, you could say, very, very briefly, and then the Chutis arrive, and he even tells the kid, hey, I'm going to distract them. My time is limited. I've received this vision, and I know what it means, and my time is up, and you're here for a reason, and you need to escape to the coast. And then the kid blunders it, with good intentions, I suppose. He steps out to save the original Pathfinder's life, but that goes down the drain. The deal that's made goes down the drain immediately after doing so it kind of nullified the boy's intentions or actions entirely. And so now he's in a worse situation, compared to if he had just gone into the woods where the Pathfinder said he could go while he distracted the Chutis. But it's all such simple stuff. It's all very vanilla. It's very 1 + 1 = 2. It feels like a biblical tale because of how bare bones and elementary it is, but just the way the story is told, the actual craft of everything, the locations, for like, that's what really makes it. That's what seems to make it land so well. Like, it is a cute coming of age sentimental story. There's like that theme of there being like a broader family, a broader tribe that all these people belong to, and that sort of thing, and the boy is basically adopted and taken in formally. When he shows up to that tent where they're grieving him, they assume that he's also dead with the Chudas, and it's very it is like a legend.
It's a piece of mythology, and it's not. I don't think this is the kind of movie that's for everyone. There's like some people like extreme realism with the characters, their motivations, and all these things. And for somebody like that, you might not enjoy this movie. But that's not the case with me. Like I do enjoy mythological tales and like over the top like good guys and bad guys. I like to have like a clear delineation between the good and evil. I don't need to empathize with the villain in the show by having him have all these complex reasons for why he makes bad decisions now. That's not really necessary for me to enjoy it, and that is definitely the case with these villains, is that they're very over the top. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they actually made up a constructed language for the Chuds in the movie. They weren't speaking Sami, so these were like outsiders, and they just made up a language from scratch for these guys so that they would seem more foreign than just speaking like. So they'd be more foreign and not identifiable as any particular tribe in the area, because they're not meant to be particular. They're meant to be like the essence of another. Like they're meant to be this cartoon villain, kind of. And you see that when he makes a deal with them, and then they immediately go back on the deal behind his back, where the audience can see it, and break their promise and kill the guy.
Antagonists and how they're portrayed, like it's all just down to what serves the story and what it is you're doing cinematically. Like for a story like this, where we're working with some tropes, a coming of age story. The hero is a very young person who's down on their luck. It's taking place long ago, before civilization. For stories and settings like that, you can definitely get away with one-dimensional villains. In this instance, like they're almost not really like people, because you know nothing about them. All we're everything that's being communicated to the audience about the opposing tribe, these raiders, is that they're just vicious, and they don't really care about what they're doing. They lack honor, integrity, is what we see with them going back on the deal immediately behind the boy's back. They're not regretful about something like that. Like it's having like a mysterious or a one-note villain works extremely well, depending on a litany of things. Depending on who's in the driver's seat. Like like in Jaws or Halloween. I mean, it's the mysterious thing that is wreaking havoc. It being so scary or intimidating, comes from the mystery. It comes from not understanding really what it is or why it is. All you know is that it's hostile, and it has an advantage over whoever the protagonists are. Like that's a very, very simple trope. It's you can make that work in many different stories and kinds of movies, especially thrillers and horror. It usually will create some dread, anxiety, if you hold back a bit on the monster, or whatever it is. It can really be anything. Even Alfred Hitchcock managed to make birds scary. And John Carpenter managed to make an ordinary man wearing a random mask, very scary. I mean, I've heard plenty of people, plenty of movie buffs say, "Oh, it's just lazy, it's cliche, it's just bad writing, it's just rote," and it's like, yeah, it is, but its efficacy, how it makes you feel, or how it works for the story is really coming down to the filmmaking and whoever's creatively in charge. It's not necessarily an amateurish move to do that.
Yeah, well, it's just because they're simple doesn't necessarily mean they're completely unrealistic. Like, to me, they came off as roughly based on Vikings, like in what they were doing. Although they are somewhat like the ATF, because at the very beginning they shoot a dog to establish that they're the villains. They're all dressed in black. The good guys are all dressed in like white and light colors, like earth tones, light grays, white furs, and then the bad guys are all dressed in like black ninja outfits, like winterized ninja outfits, and they establish, like, almost every time you see them, they're doing something. It's not like heinously evil, like there was a little bit of torture or threats of torture, but clearly they have no qualms with like killing and taking what they want, which is that's kind of like the Vikings, roughly speaking. Like invaders that just show up, they kill everybody, they pillage and plunder, and then move on. So while it is kind of one-dimensional, it's not completely unrealistic that they're like pirates and raiders are a thing that actually exist in real life, and they do these things. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah. If like let's say some studio or something, they want today, right now, they wanted to make a thriller of some kind about a cruise ship getting taken over by pirates or something. If like their intent is to just have the film be visceral, induce a lot of anxiety, I would assume that in order to do that, you would characterize the the pirates or whatever as very just coldly doing their job, because like that would definitely make them more intimidating, that would make them more scary, that would induce a lot more fear, rather than trying to have walk and talk scenes where the pirates are talking to themselves, and then we're going into characterization with one of them. Not saying that wouldn't be like a compelling story. Like obviously it could be. It just depends on what you're doing. Like what serves the project. What is the what is the vision. At baseline. But I'm all for one-dimensional villains, or a mysterious villain where you learn nothing about them in the entire runtime. Like I am pretty supportive of that, because I've seen it done enough times pretty well. Like in the film Duel, which Spielberg did earlier in his career. He basically takes something so ordinary, a truck on an open highway, and he turns it into an antagonist. He turns it into a seemingly like a force of nature. He turns it into this scary thing, and it's a stupid car. We see cars on the open highway all the time, and are we scared of them? No. But when you apply, an artistic vision, when you know how to cut, edit, use music, things like that, and you have a compelling protagonist, that's all of a sudden it becomes something entirely different.
I did want to ask you about the animal symbolism. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, like the crow, the reindeer bull. The crow originally, like when I first watched it, I thought the crow was just like a representation of the Chuds themselves. Like you see the crow, you see them. But I rewatched the film, and the crow was also there when before the bear attack. So I was wondering what you thought the crow meant.
I noticed in the first half they like using those wide shots. You know, the camera's panning with the bird, and they use that here and there. And I'm not sure if that's like what that is exactly. If that's to signal that, you know, something bad is about to happen, or if that bird is the embodiment of a of one of the ancestors or the fallen members of the tribe. Like that part eludes me because I'm not really sure what it was they were doing. It doesn't seem very self-explanatory to me.
Another reason I associate them with the Vikings, because the crows and ravens they're associated with the Norse god Odin, and it was also color coded with the villains of the story, which are also dressed in black. So the crow is black, they're black. They're shown usually in sequence, one after another. Usually we see the crow, and then we see the Chuds, or just vice versa. We see the Chuds, and then the crow is like flying away. So to me, it was either directly associated with them as a group, or it was just symbolizing like danger. There's some kind of danger about to happen, because it was also right next to the bear scene, which was a dangerous scene.
Yeah. I mean, it's I've seen the movie twice. I noticed the crow, the bird thing, more on the second viewing. Like the second viewing, I was like, oh wait, hey, I don't even remember these, these shots of the bird. I mean, maybe that's like a distant, it's like an icon or a mascot, of these bad guys. Like that was my first impression. But I mean, what you're saying makes some sense, and you've got like the color coded thing going on there. Like color in this movie is awesome. The range of color.
Yeah, there's not a huge range of color, but the colors they did use seemed meaningful, and they worked very well. This did take place over, I think in movie it's like 3 days. It's several days, but I should probably rewatch it again. But I think there's more daylight at the beginning of the film than there is at the end. So it seems like the colors progress more and more from like the bright sunny pink day to more orange throughout the film, and then eventually very blue by the end of the film.
Yeah, there's definitely a like a progression there that feels intentional, and then like the final the final scene, it's very warm, warm hued, because it's illuminated by a fire, and it's very neat, and it's symmetrical, and it's it kind of reminds me of like the wide shot, like the group portrait shot at the end of the original Star Wars film. It's like it's just very neat.
It's like a family photo. It's like everybody's gathered around. We're gonna take a family photo.
Yeah, they do that in the Phantom Menace too. They do like a group portrait thing with similar color science, done for the scene.
Every of the original 6 Star Wars movies ends with a family portrait like that.
Kind of. I mean, Episode 4 is like a group of heroes. Empire Strikes Back ends with a wide shot where the camera's facing their backs. Return of the Jedi, like the camera's off to the side, but yeah, they do something similar. You have like this group portrait in the forest. Episode 1, they're at the top steps of Naboo. Episode 2 is kind of mirroring Empire Strikes Back. You're looking at their backs, and they're out looking at something pretty. And then 3 is the Tatooine homestead, and it's the people raising Luke looking out to the sun. It's not really quite a group portrait, but yeah, like those six films are repeating something at the end, but really they're repeating lots of things. Star Wars references itself, and it references many other films. But yeah, we're obviously this stream isn't about Star Wars, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I had some other things to say, but I mean, we should probably wrap it up soon. The only other interesting thing that I wanted to get in that stuck out to me was they wouldn't reference a bear by its name. They would I think it was called Darfot, and if anybody tried to speak the true name, they were shut down by the other people. They were like, no, don't say his name. And that's something that happened with the word bear in English as well. Like, the word bear actually etymologically is related to the word brown. Like, it just means the brown one, and it's a way to reference bears without actually saying their name. I don't know if anybody even knows the original name for bears, because there's so many cultures in Northern Europe that just refuse to speak its name.
Yeah, that was an interesting detail. I have no idea what I'm gonna do next. If I do another one of these, I mean, time will tell.
Definitely contribute suggestions for something to watch, or you could pick one again. I don't know, maybe Jackknife could pick one. But yeah, I'd like to discuss more.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, he and I are supposed to talk. We are supposed to review Backrooms. It's not even a movie I'm all that. I'm not that enthusiastic. I'm glad I watched it though. Like, I feel like it's worth watching once, and I do think it's worth talking about. Like, I liked it merely just for the sake of it being auteur filmmaking. It's not exactly a movie for me, really. I feel like that sort of premise has been done far better. Someone like David Lynch or whatever. But yeah, I'm glad that I was able to introduce Pathfinder to you. Because you sounded pretty receptive to it immediately when you and I were in a VC and you commented on it. So it's a double whammy, Like, not only is the movie special and rich and it's aged well and it's got this ethereal quality to it, but it's also very much up your alley, and it's up mine. For similar reasons. But yeah, I'm glad we talked about it. I want to popularize underrated, misunderstood movies. That's why I would ever be interested in doing any kind of live stream where a movie is discussed. But yeah, if you want to pack it up, we can do that. And it was a good discussion, and tell all your friends about it.
It's a good discussion, good to talk about it. Yeah, definitely a great film. I would recommend it. I've only seen one other film from this director, and this one was better. So maybe his newer ones can top this, but I'm thinking it's not likely.
Probably not, but I have a couple of them downloaded with English subs, and one of them came out just a couple of years ago. Apparently it's got good reviews. So I've yet to see that, but given how old he is, and he may be washed up, but I don't know. I cannot comment on it until I've actually screened it. But yeah, he did a great job. I mean, it's really a fascinating little exercise. Um, Very impassioned. Very, very happy that he got to do the picture, and the government helped fund the project. It's all pretty awesome. But yeah, if you want to pack it up, then we can do that, and I'll post this on YouTube after the fact, and the goyim will have to suffice with that.